So, hey, this is Ryan Mathie, CEO of High Performing Coach. And look, if you really want to learn how to level up your life, you should be listening to the Time to Shine Today podcast with my good friend, Scott Ferguson. Let's level up, baby.
Time to Shine Today podcast varsity squad. This is Scott Ferguson. We're at episode 312 with the coach's coach, my good friend, Ryan Mathie, the CEO and founder of High Performing Coaches. And he really takes coaches, consultants, any other really service providers that help others directly to the next level. And he's fantastic, so well-spoken, so transparent. His honesty that he breaks out in this interview with regards to a certain situation with communication with someone in his life just really just blew my mind. And I know it will blow yours. So if you have a digital note taker or a notepad, please break it out, because you will want to, you'll have notes upon notes just like I did. So without further ado, here's my really good friend, Mr. Kingly, Ryan Mathie from High Performing Coaches. Let's level up. I got my laptop lifestyle traveler in front of you, Ryan Mathie. I believe he just told me he's in Germany right now, kind of doing his thing. Just watched him on another podcast or kind of a stream that he's popped over. Luckily, he carved some time for you guys, the squad here. Ryan, he's Scottish. He's an author, coach, and expert in personal and professional development, who's best known for helping new and ambitious coaches build their businesses as the co-founder and CEO of High Performing Coach. He was born in the small town of Bellshill in North Lanarkshire, Scotland, and is the great-nephew, get this on my little football, as we call soccer fans here, Sir Matt Busby, who is a Scottish football manager, or player and manager of the world-famous English football team, Manchester United. I'm an Everton fan myself, but I'll give him a pass here. I'm just kidding, right? He's a leading figure amongst the rise and new coaches in the industry. He's regarded by his peers as one of the best, most highly trained, experienced coaches in the world, as well as his passion for helping people living conscious and limitless lives. Ryan loves dogs. All right, man. I got my pit bull Stitch here that's listening in. Playing golf, meditating, and being on his time, again, the laptop lifestyle. His first solo book, High Performing Coach, How to Create High-Fee Clients and Build a Profitable Coaching Business from the Heart, is due to be published in early 2022. And I cannot wait to get my hands on that copy. And Ryan, thank you so much for coming on. Please introduce yourself to Time to Shine Today podcast varsity squad. But first, what's your favorite color and why?
I think it's burgundy.
Burgundy. You're the first guest out of 300 episodes, man. Why burgundy? It's obviously in your handsome double color wheel. But
yeah. So Ryan means kingly in Irish. My star sign is Leo. So there's a lot of connection between me and feeling like a king. And burgundy, particularly velvet burgundy, is for me very royal.
Royal and regal.
Yeah, very royal and regal. So I love that color. It does complement my eyes.
Okay.
So that also works as well. But for me, it's just if you got the material, nice material, then that's
I love it. You said Ryan means king what?
Kingly.
Kingly in Irish.
Yep.
Awesome, dude. I never knew that. See, I learn something every day. Get to meet people like you. And this is kind of like a selfish thing for me, Squad, because I respect Ryan a ton, and all of his links to social. You got to check out his YouTube channel, or if you're into LinkedIn, I literally was just watching him live before he popped over to here. He just puts out just fantastic content, especially for you coaches like myself out there to really looking to level up your business. And Ryan, let's get to kind of the origins of yourself. We know you're Scottish, you probably grew up there, whatnot, but now you're kind of living that traveling laptop lifestyle that I mentioned before. But can we just get to that origins if you don't mind?
Yeah. So is that the origin of how I came to be in this position?
Yeah. How about just start with, where things started popping of being in the service of others.
Exactly. Yeah. So there's 2009, and I was living in London at that point, and I had started a new relationship. And I don't know if I'm sure you understand, your listeners will understand that when we go into a new relationship, depending on where we're at in our journey, usually, we start getting triggered. We start dealing with parts of ourselves that we couldn't see before. And I got in this loop with my new girlfriend at that point, and we had this argument over and over and over again for 4 weekends in a row.
Wow.
And it was a kind of argument that she was wrong and I was right. She was her behavior was a bit strange, and the way I was dealing with it was to be blaming, and she kept saying the same thing over and over again, which was, Ryan, it's nothing to do with me. And I'm like, no, it's you. It's definitely you. It's definitely you.
Sure.
And on the 4th weekend, walking through the streets of Bethnal Green in East London, we were fighting about what happened the previous night. Same again, Ryan, it's got nothing to do with me. And she must have said it like 15, 20 times by this point. And I thought to myself, she keeps saying it's nothing to do with her. What if it's got something to do with me? And I had never asked myself that question before, because until that moment, I was right about everything. My point of view was the only point of view that existed. Sure. And here was I, for the first time in my life, asking a question that was turning the attention towards myself. And I nearly fainted, because my life started flashing in front of me, all the relationships that I'd had, the conflict I'd maybe had in my family. Then I started to see all the things I'd tried and failed at in my life, and how the consistent factor in every situation was me. And in all the other situations, I was convinced it was them, or it was the circumstances and all of that stuff. So here I was, seeing that whatever I thought to be true was no longer, it didn't stack up. It wasn't true. And it completely rocked me, not in a good way. And I said, look, I need to go home. I'll call you later. Went into my apartment, went into my bedroom, up the stairs, jumped on the bed, and just sobbed like a baby. And I must have cried in total for 4 hours, as I was realizing more and more, like, my life, how much, if you don't mind me saying so, bullshit, how much bullshit had been, in my life, but I couldn't see it. And now I was seeing it, and it was devastating. So the more I saw, the more I cried, the more I cried, the more I saw. And then 2 hours, like halfway through this process, I started to feel lighter. And then I started to realize, like, actually, this is good.
Right.
It started to feel like, what I now refer to as transformation, because for the first time in my life, I was seeing clearly. So then I went to bed. I literally fell straight asleep again, like a baby. Woke up the next day, and then I started contacting all my ex-girlfriends, and I could see, I said, look, I'm sorry that this happened. I'm sorry that I blamed you for that. All of a sudden, everything was clear. I apologized for everything. I then contacted all my family, and I started telling them, hey, why don't we tell each other we love each other? Why don't we talk about what happened back then? I wrote a list of all the things that I did that I wasn't proud of. And,
sure.
And I knew I had to clean up my life. One of those things was the money that I'd stole from the church. I stole money from the church when I was a teenager, and I'd never forgot about it. And it was on my list. And I eventually went to Scotland, and I lifted out a whole bunch of cash, and I went to see the priest. He was still there. He was, already old 15 years before, and here he is still there, like still rocking it, but older. Yeah. And I went into the confessional box, and I said, look, Father, can I come round the other side? And he went, yeah, of course. And he pulled me a chair, and I said, Father, you remember a long time ago, 15 years ago, there was a little kid, orange hair, freckles, stole some money, and then he disappeared. And he went, yeah, I remember that boy. And I was like, well, that was me. And I just want to let you know, I'm sorry. Like, I didn't know what I was doing. I was just young and stupid, but I never forgot. And I wanted to come here today to tell you I'm sorry. And I have all this money. It's more than I took, and I hope that you can forgive me. And he looked me in the eyes, and he grabbed my hand, and he said, Ryan, we all make mistakes, and it's what you do about it that counts. And I had a cry, and we had a moment that we shared. So my life was full of that for years, just completing the past, getting a bit of myself back every time. And in the same process, I was like, I'm not the only one going through this. I'm not the only one that would wanna or need to go through this. And I started sharing, what I was going through with other people. And that was the start. I knew exactly what my life was about in that moment in 2009. And then here we are, fast forward. What were you now, like 12, 13 years?
Yeah. And how old are you, Ryan, if you don't mind me asking?
42.
So we're not too far off. I'm 50. So, 09 was my wake-up call to a lot of things. I had a narcissistic way about myself. Not saying you were, but I was very narcissistic and I was above everybody and I was always right. And then it took the market crashing and me not listening to my advisors before and kind of lost everything. So you and I are kind of like brothers from different mothers, man, in a sense. 09 seems like that year, because that was probably the worst year up until kind of now, where, you know, economy in what it was. So no, I appreciate you saying that. And I'm hearing a lot out of what you just said is responsibility, right? You started taking responsibility. Let me ask you something. What is your definition of responsibility?
Yeah, so there was actually 4 things that happened that day, and it took me a while to name them. So if I can say them first, then I'll come back to your question. Yes, I was done being a victim. Yes, started getting responsible. I was done pretending. I was done with that. Started getting authentic. I was done looking at myself in the mirror and not liking what I saw. So I wanted to get integrity back. And then I wanted my life to be a lot more about, you know, than just making money or being, you know, conventionally successful. I no longer needed that. I wanted to have my life be a contribution. So that was the 4 things that happened to me that day. So you're asking, what does responsibility mean to me, or what's my definition of responsibility?
What's your definition of that?
My definition of responsibility. I think it was said in one of the great books that was written, it's the ability to respond.
Thank you.
So
thank you. That's exactly what I say. Exactly what I say.
Yeah.
And I heard it across the board with what you were saying. You took that response and made it right. That's just fantastic, Ryan. Thank you for saying that. So do you work with coaches one-on-one, or do you work with coaches more in group settings? Yeah.
So funnily enough, I started working with one-on-one coaches 5 or 6 weeks ago for the first time in 5 years. Nice. So, you know, because I'd you know, we'd be very busy and focused building HPC, and it was great, and, you know, group programs and really scaling the business and making a huge impact. And I'd already done so much one-to-one for years before that. And then literally, you know, I was getting asked all the time, and I'm like, yeah, I'm not ready. I'm not open to that. And then, 5, 6 weeks ago, sitting in meditation, and it was like, okay, what's next? And it was like, time to just go back and have those one-to-one experiences. And now I have people come and visit me in Madeira for the weekend. We go on a very deep journey. I work with them on Zoom. So I just thought, right, how would I love, if I'm going to do one-to-one, what would it look like in such a way that I would really love that? And just created my own way of engaging with people. So having people come and visit me, if that's something that they want to do, is just a really great thing, beautiful experience. So yes.
Okay, very good. So when you're starting to maybe work with a coach, or maybe in the discovery period, to get them to help them level their business up, is there any secret sauce you can share a little bit about how to help them find their blind spot?
Help them find their blind spot.
Because they wouldn't come to you. I mean, I have a coach as well that helps me with my coaching. She helps me reveal my blind spots quite a bit. So what kind of process do you use?
Yeah, I mean, the whole coaching process is about that. You know, that's we can't see ourselves, right? It's why coaching exists, to help us see ourselves clearly. It's easy to see what's going on in other people. We just don't have that ability yet to do that for ourselves until we develop more awareness. So the whole process of coaching is actually helping them to see themselves in a way that they can't right now. There's various methods and tools, whether it's just questioning to help them turn their attention inwards, because again, the mind is looking in one direction, it's out. The eyes are looking out. So it's very distracting for people. So it's about asking questions that help turn their attention inwards to themselves. So there's one way. Another powerful way that I help people see their blind spots, and this is probably one of my favorites, is reflecting, right? So reflecting is like, let me just say back what I heard you say.
Yes.
Right? Because very often they'll say something that's like, well, they really can't see it, but it's right there, right? So I'll either, let me just play back what I heard you say, and I'll actually play it back word for word, and I'll go, okay, what opens up? Because then they can see me saying it, and it's obvious, but it wasn't obvious when they're saying it. And they're like, oh, I sound like a victim. Exactly. All right. So, but there's another way I like to reflect, which is even more fun. And then I'll give you an example. So I had a client a few weeks ago, and she was telling me that she'd, had a great call with somebody, offered her high fee. Then the client said they wanted to work with her, but because of what was going on in Ukraine, they had actually invited a family over to stay with them. And so she needed time to think about it. And my client just didn't know where to go, had no idea where to go. So right away she goes, I completely understand. Thanks so much. Maybe I'll send you an email in a few weeks. She went, okay, great. Okay, thanks. So she comes to me and she's like, I just didn't know what to do. Where can you go when somebody says that?
Sure.
So I'm listening. I go, look, can I just reflect something back to you? She goes, yes. And I said, you're really reasonable, aren't you? And she went, yeah, I'm reasonable everywhere. And I went, yeah. And that's what you need to get, for you to just accept that in that way without any questioning, opening, anything like that, is because it's over here with you. You're just too reasonable. So you got to look at where in your life you're being reasonable with your partner, your business, your kids, your clients, and go and start cleaning that up. Go and start getting authentic about that and actually saying what you want to say. And she had a major breakthrough right there and then.
Love that. Maybe if you're still in the discovery period, Ryan, is with them and making sure you're the right horse for their course to help them guide them through their coaching journey. Is there any good question that you wish they would ask you but never do?
That's a great question. And when you ask that, do you mean in service of them, or which I'm sure you do?
I mean, if I was hiring you, I would be kind of like, what do you see in me that makes me a great candidate to level up my coaching business?
Yeah.
That's what I would ask, but I'm also experienced, like other coaches, is there anything else that you wish maybe they would ask you? Because you're doing a lot of the questions,
Oh yeah.
You ever wish that they would ask you something?
Do I ever, let me just check that.
No problem.
Is there a question that I'd like them to ask me? I think there's I had this once where I was coaching my co-founder in the HPC, and he asked me to give him everything I had. And and because I told him that when I was working with my coaches, I said to them, give me everything. And it changed everything. And that was what will you give me everything you've got?
Will you give me everything? Dude, that is everything. Amazing. Yeah.
Yeah. So he came to me one day and he went, look, I see that these limitations are popping up. And he's like, will you give me everything you got and stop holding back? Because you said you were holding back because I wasn't ready and I didn't ask. And I went, are you sure?
Wow.
Yeah. So I would love a client to come up and I mean, I give them everything anyway, but if we can start on that and we're both up for like everything, then I'd be like,
everybody needs to hold their coach, responsible. That's awesome, dude. So have you seen the movie Back to the Future?
Yes.
Okay, let's get that DeLorean with Marty McFly. Let's go back to the Double Deuce, the 22-year-old Ryan. What kind of knowledge nuggets might you drop on him? Not so much to change anything, because your journey's pretty kick-ass, all right?
Yeah.
But like, what kind of knowledge nuggets would you drop on him to maybe shorten his learning curve a little bit, maybe level up just a little bit faster in life?
I mean, trust in the process. You're exactly where you need to be. Be patient. There is no rush.
Wow, that's strong. And also, when you're stuck, get your asking gear, right? Ask for it. Love it, man.
Yeah. Well, I was always good at that, by the way. I was always the first of my hand up, so he wouldn't have needed that. And then, like always, you believe that it can be done, and you can do it. It can be done, and you can do it.
Right. If you can believe it, you can conceive it, right? Napoleon Hill would say that. I love that. So, Ryan, how do you want your dash remembered? That little line in between your incarnation date and your expiration date, your life date and your death date on your tombstone. Hopefully it's a long way down the road, but how do you want Ryan's dash remembered?
Ryan really enjoyed his life.
You are. You're not just like a poser, imposter. Yeah. You're out there enjoying it. So that leads me to the next question. I've heard you say countless times, but I want to get your insight here on Time to Shine today on this. But the future of humanity is consciousness. You've said that quite a few times. Can you unpack that a little bit for the listeners and what you mean by that? Again, squad, that's the future of humanity is consciousness.
Yeah, I mean, the past has largely been unconsciousness, and in the present has, there's some sense of balance starting to be experienced, but we're very much an unconscious race currently. There's people like us, the people like your listeners, that we're evolving, pushing the boundaries, getting out of our minds, into our heart, touching our souls, waking up to who we really are, which is not just our thinking mind. And this seemed revolutionary not that long ago, like, when people like Eckhart Tolle wrote his book. So so the future is, it's this sense of presence, this understanding of ourselves as consciousness, and a lot more, once we get to that point. But for me, it's like there was a great meditation I heard lately. It was called Vapor, right? Brilliant meditation. And it's basically how everything's vapor, which means life is pretty meaningless. It's not a big deal. Just, get on with it and make the most of it. Right. And he says, if you took if you took the history of the world and you imagine that your wingspan represented the history of the world, and you take a nail file and you clip the edge of your nail, you would have just wiped out the entire human history.
Wow.
Right. So to put that he's trying to put in context, like we've just started, and my interpretation of that is, as a human race, we are literally just babies. And we're wondering, and putting all this pressure on ourselves to get it right. We're too young to get it any better than we're getting it. It looks like we've been here for years, but we've only been here for a tiny clip of it in the grand scheme of things, right? So, babies, they got a lot to learn. They got to wake up, they got to grow up, they got to learn how to be independent, they got to get out of their heads. Then teenagers go through their teenager phase. So wherever we're at on this line, babies, teenagers, but we're still young. But as we grow and as we mature, we're going to wake up like you've woke up, like I've woke up, like the squad has woken up. This is the future. It's inevitable. And whether it takes 100 years or 500 years, it doesn't matter. As long as we don't get hit by a meteor first, or somebody does something really stupid, which is how life could go anyway for any of us. But for me, we're still young. We've got a lot to learn, but it's only headed in one direction.
I love that you say that. I hear a lot of like staying present and stuff, and in growing through any kind of turmoil or any obstacles. I mean, because Ryan, you probably will agree with me. Like, a lot of people have a foot in the past, a foot in the future, and they piss all over the present, right? So it's like doing that. I love that you said that. So Ryan, what is your definition of a life well lived?
Yeah, I mean, it's as it says in my tombstone. It's really simple. And this is what took me 42 years probably to really, really get, after I'd worked through whatever I had to work through, is just enjoy it.
Yes.
Enjoy it. Make the most of it. And that isn't easy for so many of us because of what happened, because of what he did, and because of what happened there in this situation. But every situation can be used for our evolution, our growth, if we're willing to do that. That's what alchemy is. It's the water into wine. It's the metal into gold. It's the I got made redundant into I built my own 6-figure empire, whatever it might be. It's like what you went through in 2009. That's the beauty of life. No matter what is coming our way, we can use it to our advantage and then learn how to make the most of it and enjoy it. So that's what it's about for me.
Nothing else really needs to be said after that with regards to that. That's beautiful. Time to Shine Today podcast Varsity Squad. We're back with the coach's coach, my good friend Ryan Mathie. And Ryan, one of these days I'm going to have to make that little road trip over and hang out with you for a minute, and we can bounce some stuff off each other. And I know I'll come back learning a ton. We could probably talk about an hour on each one of these questions I'm going to ask you, but you have our lightning round. You have 5 seconds with no explanation. So you ready to level up?
I'm ready.
Let's do this. What is the best leveling up advice Ryan's ever received?
Never give up.
Love it. Share one of your personal habits that contributes to your success.
Contemplation, otherwise known as meditation.
I love this. So if you see me kind of walking down the street or whatnot, and Fergie looks like he's in his doldrums a little bit, like, what book might you hand me?
Read The Power of Now.
There you go. Love that. Love it. When you text, what's your most commonly used emoji?
It's the one where it's smiling and the eyes are closed with 2 triangles. Like,
love it. I love it. Squad, if you're watching, he nailed it. I love it. So, Ryan, nicknames growing up?
Ryo.
Ryo? Okay. Very cool.
Not nothing too fancy, but yeah, Ryo.
Love it.
Oh, actually, that's Mathie. Everybody called me Mathie, but it was Mathie with an F rather than TH. That was the slang way.
Okay.
So there we go. Yeah.
Say that again.
Mathie.
Mathie. Love it. Love it. Love it.
Yeah.
So chess, checkers, or Monopoly?
Chess.
Love it. Go to ice cream flavor.
Anything with caramel in it.
I do. We're hanging out, dude, for real. There's a sandwich called the Mathie. What's on that sandwich?
It's like the best organic, plant-based shizzle dizzle, but with a really amazing homemade spicy sauce.
Beautiful. So you have access to a time machine for one day. You can't change anything. All you can do is observe. Would you go 20 years forward or 20 years back?
Forward.
Forward. Love it. Love it. Love it. Is there any favorite charity and organization like to give your time or money to?
Yes, we work with B1G1. So we have a dog here as well.
Love it.
We work with B1G1, buy one, give one. When we sell something, we give something. And we have a project in India where we support children in India, so they have access to e-learning. We've donated nearly 500,000 days to that cause.
Love it, man. Love it. And Donnie, reach out to him and get that link for that. Okay. Awesome. Thanks. Last question. You can elaborate on this one, but what's the best decade of music? 60s, 70s, 80s, or 90s?
It's got to be 80s without any
dude, we're definitely gonna jam. Dude. I mean, the 80s had it all, right? I mean, the decade of decadence, right? Big hair, don't care. You kind of rap with Run DMC and Beastie Boys, and then you had glam rock, metal rock. Everything was in there. So,
and it had Wham.
Wham, dude, George Michael and whatever the other guy's name is. Wham was huge here. That's awesome. So, Ryan, how can we find you, my friend?
Highperforming.coach. So www.highperforming.coach, all over YouTube, LinkedIn, and now taking on Instagram as we've been asked to do more and more. And then good old fashioned Google, you'll see lots of articles and interviews that's happened there.
Yeah, and it's chock full of just awesome squad. You've got to visit it. It'll be in the show notes below. And Ryan, if you give me one last solid and leave me with one last knowledge nugget we can take with us, internalize, and take action on.
Forgive your parents. Heal your heart, no matter the cost. And open yourself up to the possibility of falling in love and living happily ever after.
Wow. It was that first one. Forgive your parents.
Forgive your parents, your mom, your dad. Forgive your brothers, your sisters, your sons, your daughters. Forgive all of them. Heal that while you got the chance.
Love it. And squad, we just had a really emotional, heart touch, felt, and masterclass with my good friend Ryan, which means kingly in Irish. He was triggered seeing things he couldn't see before. He's kind of caught in a loop. He recognized through help of somebody and himself in his pillow that he's crying on, that he noticed a consistent factor was him. So he took responsibility. Again, it's the ability to respond. That's what Ryan did. He got done being a victim, done pretending, done not liking himself. He wanted more than just monetary gain. He wanted to contribute and help others level up. And he reminds us that coaching exists to help see themselves clearly with more yourself clearly with more awareness, through reflection, and get them to see inwards. That's what a good coach will do. That's what Ryan does. He wants you to remember to trust the process and the protocol of whatever you're going through. You are exactly where you need to be. So be patient. And if you feel stuck, like my good friend Leah Woodford would say, get your asking gear, ask for questions. He's somebody that I believe is planting trees he's never going to sit in the shade of, because he's giving and moving forward and realizing that every single situation that he goes through in life and that we're going through in life, there's an experience of growth there if you're really looking for it, if you're present and looking for it. Lastly, he reminds us to forgive the peeps in our life, including that dude in the mirror, or dudette, if you're a female listening, in the mirror. Forgive that person, heal your heart, and open yourself to the possibility of not only falling in love with others, but falling in love with everything. And Ryan, you level up your health, you level up your wealth, you're humble, yet you're hungry. You're a world traveler. I'm living although I live in paradise, I'm living vicariously through you on your travels. And I can't wait to do some collaboration of some sort in the future, man. I love your guts so much, brother.
Sounds great. And now I know why your show's so damn popular.
Thanks, man. I'll chat with you soon, Ryan.
Love it. Thank you.
Hey, thanks so much for listening to this episode of Time to Shine Today podcast. Proudly brought to you by Sutter and Nugent Real Estate Excellence, who can be reached at 561-249-7266 and online at www.sutterandnugent.com. If you are a business owner or professional who would like to be interviewed on Time to Shine Today, please visit timetoshinetoday.com/guest. If you like this episode, please subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, iHeartRadio, or wherever you get your podcasts. There's a link in the show notes to our website. Also there, you will see our recommended resources. We hope that you will support our show by supporting them. If you like what you've been listening to, it'd be great if you could just give us a 5-star rating and tell your friends how to subscribe while you're at it. I'm your host, Scott Ferguson, and until next time, let's level up. It's our time to shine.